Hi, my name is Ina Nikolaev, and today I will be talking about the Mediterranean diet and cardiovascular disease. My research question is: does the Mediterranean diet reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease? To start us off, what is the Mediterranean diet? The Mediterranean diet focuses on eating a wide variety of fruits, vegetables, primarily eating whole grains and legumes and nuts. A huge part of the Mediterranean diet is to focus on eating fresh, clean, and simple foods. Important factors in the diet that I will be talking about in the next few slides include olive oil, whole grains, red meat, fish and omega 3s, and processed food. To start off, olive oil has an essential role in the Mediterranean diet. Olive oil is made up of monounsaturated fatty acids and antioxidants. Olive oil can lower our bad cholesterol levels, which we refer to as LDL levels, and raise our good cholesterol levels, which we refer to as HDL levels. Lowering LDLs and raising HDLs are linked to lowering heart disease, but I will touch more upon this later in the slideshow. Not only is olive oil good for our hearts, but it also adds and enhances flavors in many dishes in this diet. Moving on to whole grains. Whole grains are grains that contain all three parts of the kernel, the bran, germ, and endosperm, in their original proportions. So this means that they are not processed to have any of those parts of the kernel removed. Whole grains provide really healthy carbohydrates, fats, and even proteins depending on what whole grains you consume. Whole grains are linked to lowering the risk of cardiovascular disease because they contain a lot of fibers that our body needs and can reduce our cholesterol levels, improve our blood pressure, and help maintain our weight. Some examples of whole grains that are delicious include barley, quinoa, and brown rice. Next, we have limitations of red meat. By limiting our red meat consumption in our diet, we are reducing our LDL cholesterol levels. Since red meat contains a lot of saturated fats and cholesterol, this is linked directly to lowering our risk of heart disease when we limit our red meat intake. As we know, red meat can be a very good protein source, but in the Mediterranean diet, fish, legumes, and poultry like lean chicken are great forms of protein. Now, the benefits of fish and omega 3 fatty acids, my personal favorite. Fish and omega 3 fatty acids as a whole are extremely beneficial to our heart and a huge part of the Mediterranean diet. Omega 3s reduce our triglyceride levels and lower inflammation, which I will also talk about more later in the presentation. Good examples of fish that are high in omega 3s are salmon, mackerel, and sardines. If fish isn't your favorite, other sources of omega 3s include walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds. Lastly, we have health impacts of processed foods. Processed foods are avoided in the Mediterranean diet, and here's why. They have a strong link to inflammation and blood sugar spike, which can raise our risk of heart disease. Processed foods contain refined grains, unhealthy fats, which include saturated and trans fats, and added sugars in food. All of these components contribute to poor heart health. Here I have included an image of Mediterranean diet broken down so it is a bit simpler to see. This diet does have a lot of focus on practicing physical activity and implementing family time. The items that are good to enjoy daily are whole grains, fruits and vegetables, and healthy fats. Fish, seafood, and foods that are rich in omega 3s should be eaten around 3 times a week. Poultry like chicken, eggs, and dairy products can be enjoyed 1 to 2 times a week. And lastly, red meats and sweets should be limited while on the Mediterranean diet. Moving on to cardiovascular disease. What is cardiovascular disease is the real question. Cardiovascular disease, known as CVD, is a broad term encompassing conditions affecting the heart and blood vessels. Different types of cardiovascular diseases include coronary artery disease, heart failure, pericarditis, cardiomyopathy, valve disease, aneurysms, and cardiac arrhythmia. Now I will be showing and talking about the case studies demonstrating the relationship between diet and heart health. For my first case study, this was about salmon and the Mediterranean diet. The central goal of the study is to identify food-specific compounds known as FCSs from salmon metabolites and plasma after a Mediterranean-style diet intervention and explore their associations with cardiometabolic health indicators. To summarize the key methods used, researchers discovered 508 unique compounds and 237 metabolites in salmon. After people ate salmon, 143 compounds and 106 metabolites showed up in their blood, with 48 compounds and 30 metabolites increasing. Some of these changes were linked to better cholesterol, lower LDL, lower triglycerides, and improved apolipoprotein B levels. This links with my research question because this study supports and shows that the Mediterranean diet, specifically salmon, can improve heart health by lowering cholesterol and triglyceride levels, which lead to helping reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. The second study that I researched was primarily focused on olive oil and mixed nuts, which are healthy fats in the Mediterranean diet. The central goal of the study was aimed to determine whether this diet, with focus on olive oil and mixed nuts, reduces the risk of major cardiovascular events in individuals at high cardiovascular risk. To highlight the main methods applied, about 7,500 people at high risk for heart disease, participants followed either a Mediterranean diet with olive oil, a Mediterranean diet with nuts, or a low fat diet. After about 4.8 years, there were few major heart events in the Mediterranean diet groups. The olive oil group had a 31% lower risk, and the nut group had a 28% lower risk of cardiovascular events compared to the control group. This tied into my research question because the study proves strong clinical evidence that the Mediterranean diet lowers cardiovascular disease risk. The Mediterranean diet helps prevent heart disease, likely because of the healthy fats and bioactive compounds in olive oil and nuts, leading to fewer heart attacks, strokes, and deaths. My final case study was about implementing exercise and diet in the Mediterranean diet. The study tested whether combining a calorie restricted Mediterranean diet, exercise, and behavioral support could help overweight or obese older adults with metabolic syndrome lose weight and improve heart health. In this study, 626 overweight or obese older adults with metabolic syndrome followed either a Mediterranean diet with exercise or standard diet advice. After 1 year, those in the Mediterranean diet group showed better heart health with a lower waist size, blood sugar, triglycerides, improved HDL cholesterol, and reduced inflammation and insulin resistance. This study shows that a Mediterranean diet, along with lifestyle changes, can significantly lower cardiovascular risk. Improvements in weight, cholesterol, blood sugar, and inflammation highlight the diet's important role in preventing heart disease. Now, I will be touching on all the amazing benefits of the Mediterranean diet. Firstly, reducing inflammation. The Mediterranean diet reduces inflammation by providing antioxidants from fruits, vegetables, and nuts, and emphasizing healthy monounsaturated fats over unhealthy fats. It also limits processed foods, a major cause of inflammation, and includes plenty of omega 3s, which further help reduce inflammation. I also have attached two images of foods that cause inflammation and foods that fight inflammation, a few examples of each. To start off with, foods that cause inflammation are processed meats and fried foods. Foods that lower or reduce inflammation would be fresh foods, leafy greens, and fatty fish, which we talked about earlier. Another awesome benefit of the diet is that it lowers cholesterol. To understand cholesterol, I'll talk about LDL levels, which is considered to be bad cholesterol, and HDL levels, which is considered to be good cholesterol. LDL, low density lipoprotein, carries cholesterol from the liver to the arteries, and high LDL can lead to cholesterol buildup in the arteries. HDL, high density lipoprotein, carries cholesterol away from the arteries back to the liver where it's processed and removed from the body. High levels of HDL prevent cholesterol buildup in the arteries, supporting heart health. The Mediterranean diet helps lower LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and boosts HDL, the good cholesterol. It avoids foods that raise LDL, like saturated and trans fats, while promoting healthy fats from olive oil and fish. Lower cholesterol levels lead to better heart health and reduce risk of cardiovascular disease. Decreasing triglyceride levels is also a great benefit of the Mediterranean diet. Triglycerides are a type of fat, specifically lipids, that are found in our body. Having high triglycerides levels can cause thickening of the artery walls and can be extremely damaging to our heart, so it is important to keep our levels at a healthy level. Lowering triglyceride levels reduces a major risk factor for heart disease. The Mediterranean diet helps by avoiding sugars, refined carbs, and saturated fats, and instead focuses on whole grains, healthy fats, and limited alcohol, leading to better heart health. Mediterranean food is not only beneficial to our health, but also one of the best cuisines, in my opinion. Authentic Mediterranean food includes Greek salad, shakshuka, which is an authentic breakfast, and briam, which is baked vegetables and olive oil. Why is this important? Heart disease is the number one killer of the United States. Coronary artery disease is the most common type of disease in America. About 1 in 20 adults aged 20 and older have coronary artery disease, which is about 5%. In 2022, about 1 out of every 5 deaths were from cardiovascular disease was among adults younger than 65. It is important to be aware of heart disease, and the Mediterranean diet is a great option for prevention. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this video